Hey, Curtis.
Hey, Oz.
What movie you got for us this week?
This week, PG-13 word alert. We've got Murder on the Orient Express crossed with Scooby-Doo, tossing some Columbo, all brought together by America's ass. This week, we're talking about Knives Out.
You feel so dirty now, don't
I
you?
do. Ew. I said it dirty white. Ew.
Oh, welcome back, listeners of yours, to another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where we take a monthly theme. This month being Patreon Subscriber Choice Month.
Yes.
Choice Month 0.5.
Yes.
And we're here to satisfy that with our guest this week, Aaron A. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
I'm Oz. And
I'm Curtis.
And we are here. Let's.
Yes, we are. We are present and accounted for.
Aaron's brought Knives Out to us this week, which we're going to discuss. But we definitely want to give a shout out to the other fine Patreons: Don S, Mandy K, Melissa L, Colin K, and Lyle M. Thank you for your patronage. We've got two after this one. Two.
Yeah, we got two more. Again, it's a 1.5 monther because we have 6 Patreons, and you can't fit 6 movies into 4 weeks. So no. We're gonna go into April, and then we'll have a mini theme for mid to end.
Yeah,
April.
Thankfully, April's a 5-weeker, so we'll still get 3 selections out of what would have been our April theme. So
a mini month is what I meant.
Yeah,
to say.
so we've got Aaron, you're our Patreon representative this week, and we've got Lyle M next week, and we're going to end with Melissa L. In mid-April there. So Knives Out.
Yeah. And Aaron, I will say you will not be surprised at all for Lyle M's selection.
I'm very curious.
It is as Lyle M can be.
It's Red Sonja.
It's Red Sonja.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts, especially with the passing of Gene Hackman. If he may have chosen Hoosiers.
Okay, stop.
Yep.
We'll reveal this, please. And
thank
you.
You stay out of this Patreon subscriber, Aaron.
Okay, we'll share no more.
So this movie, Knives Out. Have either of you read the book, The Westing Game?
No.
It's a very, very good, I'd pit it more like young adult. It's easily digestible by, the young adult crowd. But it's an older book, and it is always, when I saw this movie the first time, it reminded me so much of that movie of you've got this, patriarchal, figurehead that mysteriously vanishes, and the whole rest of the book is trying to lay out what happened, but there's also this behind just kind of this mini game. How are these people all connected? And how it's not all family in that one as much as it is tenants of the building that he owned. But it very much seeing this for the first time reminded me so much of that book. So had I had a movie marriage, I would have thrown that in, and everyone would have, I probably would have put in the cricket sound effect as everyone scratching their head, what's he talking about?
Books, who reads those?
Right? Why? This is a movie podcast.
It's called Let's Talk About Flicks. Let's talk about words.
That's right. So, but I've got the cast this week.
Yes,
so
Who's guys, in this? Well, and I'll sit back and take a little siesta while you go through the cast of this.
If you guys would like to, run if you need to hit the John, you just go right on.
Yeah, as one does at 9:00 in the morning after drinking a gallon of prune juice.
So, this movie is the first in what has become a series of books. Well, books. This isn't Let's Talk About Books. This is Let's Talk About Flicks. A series of movies featuring our pseudo main character sorts. Daniel Craig is Benoit Blanc, private detective, Southern man, if you will.
Benoit White.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's unlike like Friends actor Matt LeBlanc, otherwise known as Matt the White.
Matt the White.
So
this character is also partially derived from Blanca from Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, originally I think that was the costume design.
It was,
they couldn't go with it because they had to hire Frank Oz.
Yeah,
they didn't have the money in the budget.
That Frank Oz money, just sucked the budget dry.
It's like they had enough to sign one more free agent, maybe two, and then they signed Frank Oz, and then they just sunk the ship.
Yep.
And so Daniel Craig is kind of he's got an interesting role in this, as he's kind of the main character, but also not. I mean, everything else is happening around him. And he's again but a private detective, so he's our entry into the story.
Yes.
And then it's really just this giant ensemble of people of great actors.
Yes.
Chris Evans, as you said, America's derriere. As he plays Ransom Drysdale.
Ransom.
We have Ana de Armas playing our kind of, it's Harlan's nurse, Marta, but Harlan, being played by Christopher Plummer, a novelist who perishes, and that's really the mystery around the movie is who's responsible for Harlan's death.
I love the names in this. Ransom, Harlan.
Yeah.
Richard.
So Linda.
Yeah.
Just
off the wall bizarre names.
Speaking of Linda, Jamie Lee Curtis and Don Johnson are Linda and Richard Drysdale, parents of Ransom Drysdale.
Aaron A., you sent me a text yesterday referencing Don Johnson. Do you care to recreate that part of the conversation?
Well, first I said how much I appreciated Chris Evans being in the movie, and then I heard the snarky comments about America's derriere. But then I said, even Don Johnson is still pretty handsome in my opinion, and I can't remember the last time I saw him in anything. And then, of course, Christopher Plummer back in his day was quite a hottie, even though he was like 80 plus.
I would like to point out that Patreon subscriber Aaron A. is younger than both Curtis and I. So despite looking like she's filming this, at a museum or mausoleum, and her clear appreciation for extremely older men, that's a taste that she has acquired over time. Yeah. So,
well, Chris Evans is probably more my contemporary, but...
Well, he is for sure. But you're like, but let's not forget the great Don Johnson and Christopher Plummer.
Yeah. I mean, Don Johnson, he's aged like a fine wine. Yeah. Although I think he should have been wearing a white blazer the whole time.
I think so too. And every time he showed up, we get like a pseudo techno drop.
Or just a guitar like.
Yeah, exactly, like electric guitar riff.
Yeah.
Other characters we hear. I think I will always view Michael Shannon as an underappreciated performer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even if he had a one-man show that grossed the most money in the history of Hollywood, I'm like, that man's underutilized.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon he plays Harlan's youngest son, which would be Jamie Lee Curtis's brother.
Michael Shannon's debut film, Groundhog Day, filmed in the community of my current residence.
Yeah.
WrestleMania. Yeah.
We've got a Toni Collette. She's plays the widow of one of Harlan's other sons. Lakeith Stanfield from Get Out plays the detective. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. Also a handsome man too.
Yes, we didn't mention him yet, but he's also very handsome.
Yes, lots of handsome men in this film.
Like M. Emmett Walsh.
Yes, speaking of handsome.
He takes the cake.
Yeah.
So
he played the knife.
He was
the rusty knife.
So
yes,
we've got Catherine Langford, Jaden Martell, Frank Ott, Ricky Lindholm. Like I said, M. Emmett Walsh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a voice role. It's just so many characters, and they're all just great. Really they are. So that's the cast of this film, and they all play an essential role in our murder mystery, which
Yep.
I'm going to then turn over to you guys to discuss.
Thank you for that, Oz. Normally we walk through the plot of a film and we take our time and whatnot, and we're kind of, I know sometimes, I think between the two of us, Oz, I'm a little more linear in how I kind of tell the plot of the film.
I'm a little more parabolic.
There's your hyperbolic, yes, or metabolic,
yeah. Well, I'm going more just non-linear mathematical shapes.
I'm just saying words that end in bolic.
Right. Alcoholic.
Yeah. But like this, as we were kind of joking pre-show, this movie is all plot.
Mm-hmm.
It's all plot, and there's so many characters, and it's told non-linearly,
right,
that I don't know if I could do my normal bit and just walk through a plot.
Well, and it wouldn't be doing justice to how this movie was made either.
So I think we'll kind of talk about this movie in sections or like acts in a way. So I mean, I will say we open on a very large home, the Thrombey home. Housekeeper Fran is bringing Harlan Thrombey his breakfast, but he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
He's dead with a slit throat, and that's how we start Knives Out.
Yeah.
We get a 1 week after Harlan Thrombey's demise captioned on the screen. Marta is home with her mother and sister. She gets a call from Walt, again, Michael Shannon. Come over as early as you can. The police have more questions. The death has been ruled a suicide, however. And then we just get a series of like interview vignettes from all the characters. I will say Marta is greeted by Meg, one of the grandchildren, who calls Marta family. And then we get these vignettes. We get Linda dressed in a bright red pantsuit, also greets Marta, says, Marta should have been at the funeral, but Linda was outvoted. We get a kind of a gag where everyone tells her that, like, you should have been at the funeral, but I was outvoted.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which I think gives you some insight right away into like the true colors, the true values.
Well, and
of this family.
it's interesting that Marta,
it's very democratic.
Yeah, Marta is, obviously Hispanic, in the movie, and every character says she's from a different country.
Yep.
And that is one of the running gags. And they never identify.
Marta's from Bolivia.
Yes.
Marta's from
Paraguay, Panama.
Yeah.
She's from New Mexico.
She's from Margaritaville.
Yeah. Right. And that's kind of an interesting subtext to the movie is kind of these political underscores. Yeah.
Well, and some of these characters are, again, if we're looking at the I don't want to get into the straight up politics of it, just because we'll all start rolling our eyes at that. But again, some of the characters present more obvious than the others.
Yes.
Don Johnson's character presents pretty obviously where he's at with his values and politics and whatnot. And then you get, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, for instance, who kind of comes across a little more kind of left center initially, but then as the movie evolves, you really kind of see where she's at too.
Yeah.
And again, it's this, they all these apples fell from the same tree ultimately.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just funny how different they want to be from each other, but they're really not. And even like Jamie Lee, the spot, like Don Johnson's character who married in, even though he's technically not a Thrombey, his values are, he may as well could be one.
He's been viewed as, well, a Thrombey has chosen him.
Yeah.
And knowing that they all have this extremely limited range of diversity, like their accepted spectrum is very narrow. So even though they're like, I'm gonna go to the far end of the shallow pool. Well, okay, so the water's 6 inches deeper there. Like, you're really not that different than the rest of us, but because you want to diversify from your your siblings, well, I have to be. But so like you said, Don Johnson, he's still brought in because a Thrombey viewed him as acceptable. Mm-hmm. So no matter how they view themselves, they still can't get rid of the quote unquote stink of who they truly are.
Yeah. Well, and also what they are is wealthy and privileged. They're all incredibly wealthy and privileged. Again, Harlan is a famous author. And he financially takes care of his family,
right?
And that, which is also one of the big running themes, and also one of the big plot cruxes as we go along here as well, and how he is dividing up his will, and who gets what money under what conditions, and you kind of get the idea that Harlan has had kind of a realization at his point, kind of. And you see parts of it as well, but as the movie kicks off, you get the idea that in the recent past, he's kind of come to his senses on who his family really is, and who's deserving and who's not. And
because we can assume, I think, that Harlan probably started as a struggling writer.
Yeah, he's probably the only one in the whole family who knows what it's like to have lived at some point in life without wealth and privilege.
Exactly. And so and that's where I was going with that, is with that being in his history, even though it's not in his present, it's still in his DNA.
Yes.
And so, but he has created an umbrella where no one else in his family tree after him has had to experience any sort of hardship. So that leads to some decisions he's made. But I think that there is this at the end of life, like, I still have my quote unquote my roots.
Yeah.
Well, and no one else does. Like they're all indoor cats. Like
and that has helped define who he is as a person. And he finally kind of realizes that nobody else has ever had to struggle.
No.
And he knows he wouldn't have been the success that he ended up being without the struggle.
Right.
And again, you could question whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
But he's decided some of his family members need to learn how to strugl and need to learn how to do things for themselves.
And this is a fun view on it, because there are a lot of like current wealthy people that have taken this same approach of, they take care of their kids, but they're still like, I worked for what I have. Like, I'm not just handing you millions and millions to supply you. Like George, Warren Buffett being one that guy's worth multi-billion dollars, but he lives such a frugal lifestyle, and like he's chosen a path of, my kids are going to need, they need to know how to get where they're going to be. I will not let them sink, but I'm also not going to provide them with a yacht off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, Harlan alludes to in the movie of him looking back and really regretting how he raised the kids. And Linda at some point says, like, you needed to find a way to communicate with dad. Like it was like a game. So it is acknowledged that he wasn't the greatest dad to them. He wasn't the most involved or had a good communication or good way to upbring it. But yes, it seems like his friendship with Marta helped him to reflect on his life and his shortcomings and realize
that's a good point.
The gaps that he left in his kids' lives.
Well, and he's got that association with Marta of, she's there as that living component of struggle. That almost like I have a chance with Marta to do what I didn't get a chance to do with my kids. Because you could tell, like, all of his children, they've been brats their entire life. Like they just, I mean, we obviously don't see those, the flashbacks to their youth, but they were terrible kids. They were like Veruca Salt and and Willy Wonka, and there is no reflection on their part. But with Marta, he's like, I see, because I've been where you were. Of the struggle. So
a theme is that her mother is undocumented, that is a threat to pretty much their family well-being in the United States.
Kind of an existential threat to the family.
Yes. And and Marta doesn't come in with any expectations of Harlan. She comes to work and they have a real friendship. She's not expecting anything beyond her regular pay for being his nurse and companion.
She's not being manipulative. She's just thankful to have a job.
Yes. And she genuinely loves and cares about Harlan. And there's no quid pro quo.
Right.
Yeah. So again, these vignettes begin. It's just, again, you mentioned it before, just how the other characters interact with Marta. Richard, again, Don Johnson's character, asks Marta how she's doing while never making eye contact but just scrolling through his phone. Like, it's just,
yeah, it's so superficial.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Lakeith Stanfield, Detective Elliot, starts with interviewing Linda. She's sitting next to the giant knife chair, as I put in all caps.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones chair.
Exactly. And we flash back to the party from last week. We formally meet Fran, the housekeeper, caregiver Marta from Ecuador.
Yeah.
Juanita, Harlan's mother. They have no idea how old she is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we should point out it was Harlan's 85th birthday party.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so we'll assume grandma is at least 100, but nobody knows.
Right.
And we start to find bits of the story that that start kind of intersecting and interweaving as the other characters bring things up. Ransom had an argument with Christopher Plummer, with Harlan, and he storms out. Juanita noticed Ransom leaving. We meet during these vignettes. We notice Detective Blanc is just kind of sitting behind them. And as we go, from interview to interview, from Linda to Richard to Walt, Detective Elliot is doing all the talking, but occasionally Blanc will strike a note on the piano, which is a cue to Elliot to ask, what was the question? It was,
I think, when they arrived at the party.
When did you arrive? That's right. That was the cue to the, to Detective Elliot. Again, I'm not going to go through all the details here.
No, we don't have time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We turned into a 3 hours.
It's a 7-part episode.
Yeah. Linda indicates, that she says that she and Harlan were close. Linda is a very inflated sense of self.
Yes. She really wants to project her importance to everyone else.
Yeah, and it's important for others to understand that she's a self-made woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's a self-made business entrepreneur. Yeah. She grew everything herself. I've heard
of a few of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She certainly did not use her generational wealth or influence or privilege.
It had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. She's a self-made woman. They all start trolling on Walt. Walt runs Harlan's publishing company.
Yeah.
And, Walt thinks he's important, but he always feels like he's like, Harlan never lets him grow the company. And they all just, they don't think very much of Walt. Walt also, I think, has a physical disability as well. He uses a cane to walk.
He's the Job Bluth of this family.
he's the Job Bluth.
He's the Job.
Uh-huh. He also keeps a dead dove in his pocket at all times as well.
They're illusions, Michael.
That would explain why the final countdown played so often during this movie.
A lot. That was actually the piano cue that Blanc.
It was, yeah. It was
the first note of.
Yeah, it was in the same key as the final countdown.
It was odd that they didn't use a synthesizer, but they just used a piano. It was hard to detect. Well, that's what it was.
Well, this movie compared to Arrested Development is a bit more somber, so they wanted to make sure the instrumentation reflected that.
He's the pipe organ,
an accordion.
Yeah, the somber tone of an accordion.
So, Richard interviews, and at one point Richard just points to Blanc and says, "Who the F is that?" And that's kind of the intro to Blanc's character. And, we keep flashing back to the party. We see Walt and Harlan arguing. Harlan confronts Richard. He must have hired a private detective. And has photos of Richard kissing another woman that he was going to use to basically tell his daughter, like, "Hey, your husband is cheating on you."
And that other woman was played by M. Emmett Walsh.
It was. M. Emmett Walsh actually played several characters in this movie. He played the knife.
He's the Eddie Murphy of this production.
Yeah, this movie, Norbit was the last movie that I cut from my movie marriage.
Norbit coming to America.
Yeah, not the first one. The sequel,
the Amazon Studios sequel.
Yeah, the Coming to America sequel. Well, I mean, we mentioned last week when we were talking about the man who killed Bigfoot or Hitler, then the Bigfoot, Don Amici came up in conversation.
Yes,
another '80s icon.
Yes, who was basically in his 80s during the 80s.
Yes.
Who Aaron, I'm sure you
on
had
my
his
list.
Tiger Beat poster on your wall.
It's
Don Amici.
It's Don Amici and Christopher Plummer.
I edit his fan newsletter. Yeah.
Take down Kirk Cameron and put up Don Amici.
Don Amici. I mean,
like a fine wine.
I think every girl who came of age in the late 80s had a Don Amici poster on the wall, next to NKO TV.
Like you would skip over MTV to watch Metamucil commercials. Like,
and look at him stir that powder.
Oh my gosh! Bring me more of that Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley is actually he was not as old as everybody thought. He was not. When they filmed Cocoon, he was in his late 40s.
I know.
And he was supposed to be playing like a 70-something-year-old.
Exactly. Wow. It was ridiculous. Like he was like in The Thing, he was like he was younger than we are now.
Yeah. You think about that. He was younger than us when he made The Thing.
Yeah. And he still looked like he had grandchildren.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
going back to the interviews.
Yes. Going back to the interviews, Walt interviews.
We learned that they're deceptive. They're really, most of them are really being deceptive, and
they're all liars. They're all terrible people.
Yes, and we also learned that that Blanc is an extremely established detective. And Linda makes a comment. I read your article in the New Yorker. Joni says, I read the tweet about you about the New Yorker article. But so those interviews help establish the characters and who Blanc is, and that they're not being totally honest.
Yeah, Joni owns a skincare company, very like Gwyneth Paltrow-esque.
Yes, very moved.
Yeah.
The tweet you referenced, I took that a quote here, that he's called the last of the gentleman sleuths. Is Benoit Blanc,
which is what he is. Like that really in this film, sleuth is a better title for it than private detective. Like that's how the plot of this movie plays out, is it needs a sleuth.
Lots of sleuthing.
One cool detail that I noticed is when we are before the killer is revealed, that you do see copies of the New Yorker on that person's coffee table. So I picked that up after watching a few times.
Did not notice that. There's some good sleuthing right there.
Nice
Patreon
job.
subscriber.
Yeah.
Always known for her sleuthery.
That's right.
Sleuther. I think that was your minor, was it not? Sleuthery?
Yes. In fact, it was. But as I've watched, I don't know how many times I watched this movie. Probably 20 plus times, because I just do really enjoy it. Yeah.
It's like more than a week's worth.
Well, I mean, it's 5 years old.
Well, I mean, Christopher Plummer
and Don Johnson. It's about the only time you see two of them in the same movie. So I don't blame you.
I enjoy it on many levels, including the fine old men. But like I was even thinking that there are different parts in the movie that really foreshadow things that are to come. So after Harlan's death, Linda says, I'm waiting for the big reveal, which she does eventually learn about her own husband's deception. So there are other things that are kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen later, though it does make sense, even in those conversations, the things that are being said.
Yeah. We learn a little bit about Joni and Harlan's relationship, and that basically through some accounting errors, Harlan has been accidentally basically double paying Joni and her daughter for years. And Harlan discovered that, and not only is he going to stop double paying, he's going to stop paying.
Yeah. You've made enough off of me.
Yeah.
So
he's cutting Joni off.
So there's her motive. Like, and I do like how they set up they create all of these motives for the family members to be the one that, because again, it's suicide, but of course it looks like murder. And so to create, to drop these little hints and clues as to what could have led this person over the edge, it's just fun to watch it unfold. Because as a first time viewer, you really have no idea where this movie's going. And the story's clearly fun because as a 20-time viewer, you're still enjoying the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've established that Joni has a motive, that Linda's husband, Don Johnson's character, has a motive because he's having an affair. And then even Walt, the son that everybody seems to not like so much, he's got a motive. So he's running the publishing company, but Harlan doesn't allow any like film or TV adaptations of his work, which Walt is pushing for because that'll make them more money. And then, then during a flashback to the party, Harlan essentially fires Walt. He says, I'm taking it away from you. And so Walt also has a motive to kill his own father.
Yeah. Right. Benoit talks to Marta a little bit, and we learn Marta has an interesting kind of psychosomatic trait of sorts. I don't know if psychosomatic is the right way to put it, but like a compulsive trait. And where if she lies, she throws up.
Yeah.
This is the one thing I don't really like about this movie, because it just seems so unrealistic that somebody would actually vomit when telling a mistruth. So I'm like,
that's how morally pure she is. I think it's you could view it as the extremism on both ends of this. Of you've got this family that is so deceitful that it's their it's their common language. Is lie first and admit to the truth later. And then you've got Marta on the other end of that spectrum that is like, it hurts my heart to
she's literally incapable of lying.
I can't do it. And so it's a fun dynamic. It does seem silly.
I get it. It adds for some fun moments.
Because again, this is a comedy first, but yeah, it's far fetched. But I'm like, really, like when did this develop? Because from childhood, like the first time it's like those little things of when, that's just what I found myself when I was working on my 3-2-1s, this whole lying to vomit thing. Like when did this surface? Has it always been there? Because even little white lies, it just my mind wandered off on.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice the toilet paper roll was empty.
She's the Pinocchio character of you can't hide when Marta's lying because she'll spew.
Yeah. If you're gonna spew into this. and we see that during this first big conversation between Blanc and Marta. She tries to lie about Richard not having an affair, and she pukes.
Right.
And we also find out that she basically, Harlan's told her everything. Yeah. She knows about the affair. She knows about his plan to cut off Joni's allowance. Because basically Marta is Harlan's confidant. She is who he goes to when he needs to process things, when he needs validation for his actions. And she's a trustworthy person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Detective Elliot is there and he says, this is still weak sauce. And Blanc admits, I still don't know who hired me. And so that adds an extra wrinkle to this as well.
Yeah.
Blanc literally does not know who hired him. An envelope of cash
it's that private. Up. He's that private of a detective.
Yeah.
Don't even tell me who the money's coming from.
Yeah. I think M. Emmett Walsh also played the envelope of cash.
He was. Yeah, he was.
So, so that's kind of act one, is just going through all of these vignettes. Then we then get a sequence where Elliot flashes back to the party ending and people going to bed and what kind of happens here. We see Marta and Harlan. This is around midnight or so. They're up in his study and they're playing a game together. They're playing the game Go together. And basically it's time for his medication, and she gives him the meds, and then she also has a little morphine there just to help him relax. And she thinks basically that she got them mixed up, that she accidentally gives him a lethal dose of the morphine.
Right.
And
she starts to panic.
She panics. Panicking. Yeah, the naloxone is not there.
Yeah,
it's not in her medical bag.
Frantically going through her bag, and she's freaking out. And she's explaining to him what's going to happen to him. That there's really not time to call paramedics.
Yeah, you're going to be dead in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
is basically what she says. And so Harlan realizes, that if he dies, Marta, will get charged for at best manslaughter, probably.
Right.
And with her family being undocumented, this is worse than just a crime. This is going to impact the whole family.
Yeah.
So Harlan comes up on the spot, with a plan to basically, he doesn't tell her this, but he's going to commit suicide before,
the morphine gets him.
Yeah. So his death can be ruled as suicide and not manslaughter or murder.
Right.
Just to save Marta. And so, we see all this. Harlan eventually shoos Marta away, and she comes back to the room and watches him slit his own throat, which is pretty graphic.
Yeah.
But pretty gruesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How did that affect you, Aaron, when you saw Christopher Plummer do that to himself?
Well, my heart stopped.
How did it affect you on your 17th viewing?
Yeah.
It still stopped.
Or did your heart
still stopped?
So are you a zombie? Is that why you look like you're in the foyer of a funeral home right now? I'm kidding. It's the painting behind you. That's my only tease.
I have no choice for the decor. I'm making it publicly known I'm at my mother's house.
Just turn it around.
The internet is better here. I don't want any problems.
I tease.
I know it looks like an old person's house / funeral.
I will say, even though she's at a museum, there is a Mold-orama just off camera, so it's not like it's that classy.
No. You could press a penny if you wanted to.
Yeah. Aaron just got off the coal mine ride.
That's right, 51 cents, and you get your choice of collector's penny.
Oh goodness. But going back to Harlan, it is really impressive the plan that he comes up with in just like a minute. So he
literally on his deathbed.
Literally as he has immediately processed he's dying. He's going to die. He's figuring out what to do about Marta. He gives her instructions to make her exit known to the family, to pull off her car, so to avoid the security cameras, to come back up the trellis of the house and put on his robe and his hat and pretend to be him, essentially coming down the stairs to be seen for like a midnight snack. And then then Walt sees her and her dress.
It was really Emmett Walsh as Marta, as Harlan.
As Harlan, yeah.
Yes.
Emmett Walsh played the robe. She just draped Emmett Walsh over.
She's giving him a piggyback ride through the house.
Go back to bed, Dad.
Die, gas pupper.
It's the jerk, isn't it? I get the reference correct. Yeah, okay.
He hates these kids.
Sorry, Aaron. Go.
I don't know where to go after that.
Yeah, there really is nowhere to go. I'll cut back to the present.
Okay.
So, like the family is again together. Richard and Donna are being very racist about immigrants. Joni is giving her liberal defense. Richard invites Marta over, says, her family's from Uruguay, but her family did it the right way, legally. If you break the law, you got to face the consequences, because facing consequences, I'm sure, is one thing that Richard has faced over and over.
They all know how important it is to face the consequences of their actions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, again, we get more flashbacks. Harlan and Ransom arguing. Basically, again, the next morning, Elliot, Blanc, and Marta go to talk with the real Emmett Walsh this time. He was actually just playing himself.
It's Frank Oz as Emmett Walsh.
Yeah, it's Emmett Walsh. He's like the security guy. So they're going through tapes, and they find a tape that has a recording of the exterior, because one of the instructions Harlan gave Marta was, drive away, but like pull off at this particular spot. And so Marta realizes this tape is going to realize that she really didn't leave.
Right.
And so she takes it and using, I think, a refrigerator magnet.
A banana, an old-fashioned banana.
Yet another Bluth reference.
Yeah, there you go. There's always money in the banana stand.
Yeah.
It didn't appear to be frozen or chocolate covered, but it was a banana.
No touching. That same morning, the family gathers for the will reading. Again, that's where we see M. Emmett Walsh as Frank Oz.
Yes.
Ransom arrives and just kind of barges in. Walt points out, it's funny you weren't at the funeral, but you're early for the will reading.
Yeah.
And so I think this is really, like, we've seen Ransom before, but this is really where we really meet
we meet him kind of like live. And he comes in, he's eating cookies, he's asking Fran for some milk, and he comes off not well.
Yeah. No.
We get another flashback. Jacob, who's one of the grandchildren, overheard the Ransom Harlem argument and heard Harlan reference my will and Ransom say, "I'm warning you," which again now Ransom is the suspect.
Right.
But Walt and Richard get into a slap fight as well here, which doesn't really mean anything, but I just thought it was really funny.
It was pretty pathetic.
And Elliot's just laughing in the back, like he's not doing anything to stop.
Yeah, he's rolling in his eyes, he's laughing. Yeah.
Because they're all pathetic. Like, they're just all sad, pathetic.
Yeah, they're at the will reading for their, father/grandfather, and
it's all greed.
Yeah, they're just.
It's like a sweepstakes to them.
Yeah. So Ransom confirms that he's out of the will. He knows he is because Harlan told him that he's out of the will. Richard says Harlan did what none of the others had the guts to do. This is his own father saying this. And Joni even says, well, it's for your own good. Ransom then, again, because this is, with one exception, a PG podcast, he tells them all to eat, I'll say poop, eat dung, eat dung, eat dung. Eat dung.
And that's kind of when the fight breaks out, is they're all arguing and insulted. And
I love Walt chimes in, I will not eat one iota of poop. I think Michael Shannon gave, the most unsung performance.
He's so great. He's so great.
Yeah. There's a later scene, it's not really long, where he kind of shows up at Marta's apartment, kind of like the hallway where she's trying to get out.
Yes.
And I mean, it's a short, but how they lit it and how they, cut it. I mean, he does seem almost a bit menacing and a bit threatening.
Like foreboding. Yeah. The thud of his cane.
You see his knuckles clenching the cane. You see Marta's uncomfortableness. I mean, I thought that was a really good kind of underrated scene with him. Yeah.
I mean, and the icing on the cake is when he just looks at Marta and says, kneel before Zod.
Exactly. Yeah. It was in the deleted scenes.
It was. It didn't make the final cut. But yeah, it's there. At the will reading, Frank Oz says, Harlan changed the will a week before he died. So again, that was his kind of, come to insert deity moment. And he left a pre-will letter saying to Linda, Joni, and Walt, this is the best thing to happen to all of you.
Yeah, and that's actually the what Don Johnson said to Ransom, that Harlan had the strength to do what we didn't have the courage to do, and this could be the best thing.
Those are the details you pick up on when you've seen it 20 times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we called in resident expert for this movie.
Exactly.
That's right.
So much to the family's chagrin, Harlan leaves everything to Marta.
Right.
And Ransom just laughs. Everyone else is just astonished.
Well,
and Ransom
because it completely caught him off guard, as they're all basically telling Ransom, like you said, it's what's best.
Yes,
they literally thinking that.
They literally just said that.
Yeah, just shamed Ransom for it.
Because if Ransom doesn't get any, then we all get a little bit more. And so that's all they're like, let's cut more people out. And then suddenly they're all cut out. And then it's egg on my face.
Yeah. Well, and again, one of the most ironically funny parts comes here because all up until this point, they've all treated Marta very respectfully.
Yeah,
at least for the most part. There's definitely insinuations of their values.
Right.
But your family, Marta's family, we're going to take care. We'll make sure that you get taken care of, Marta, because you were so good to Dad.
You've been good to my dad, so therefore you get to be my little pity project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll extend, like, whereas Harlan was genuine about his care.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're all like just just tangential about it, of like, well, Marta's ours. Like, it's like,
I can justify
she's our UNICEF
I can
kid.
justify my terrible views because I'm going to be kind to this one.
It's like I have a black friend.
You literally, I was going to go there and you beat me to it. This is our token minority, our model minority. That we're going to take care of.
She did it.
Look at all the countries she's from.
I know. Yeah, she's native to 6 different countries.
Right. But it's like that's their feel good moment. Of like, we're not terrible people. We have Marta.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
And so after this is revealed, Linda comes hard at Marta.
I know. I love Jamie. I love Jamie Lee Curtis in roles like this,
and
this, and like everything, everywhere, all at once, where she gets to just be nasty.
Yeah. What's interesting in real life, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Tony Curtis. She was disinherited by her own father.
It's for her own good.
For her own good. But
and she married into that Christopher Guest.
Yes, that is the ultimate.
This movie is actually semi-autobiographical with Jamie Lee.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting that her own father disinherited her and her siblings. And I'm going to do one more little caveat, because one thing I just get a kick out of this movie, because Tony Curtis was in Some Like It Hot, of course, a comedy classic. And, there's for part of the movie, he's kind of pretending to be this playboy, and he's got these big round glasses. And so while Jamie Lee Curtis is wearing those similar glasses in the movie, to me, it just reminds me of her dad and that iconic movie. So that's it always just makes me chuckle to see that.
Right.
Anyway, going back, they're all shocked.
Yeah.
They're complete. Marta doesn't.
They're all attacking Marta.
Yeah.
Jacob calls her a dirty anchor baby. Like, oof.
Good Lord.
They accuse her of having sex with Harlan. Like, it turns from this, you're a member of the family, to
you have manipulated, you have done everything.
The gloves are off.
Yeah, I'm not getting what I want. You clearly did something to take away what is mine.
Yeah, you're getting what I want, so you must have been deceitful to do it.
So an overwhelmed and disoriented Marta flees with, of all people, Ransom, who sarcastically yells at the family as he's driving away, "This is the best thing to happen to all of you."
Yeah.
They end up going to like a bar, and Marta blames the family for the decision, and Ransom says, I've gained clarity and acceptance about my own fate, and she comes clean. She tells Ransom the truth about what really happened that night. Harlan didn't commit suicide, and he even challenges Marta to tell him the truth without puking up the sausage and beans.
He made sure to get an extra bowl, and he made sure that she ate.
Yeah. So Ransom tells Marta he won't tell the family if she gives him his original cut. So that's the rub here.
Yeah.
At the mansion, the family continues to squabble, and their only hope is to prove that Harlan was murdered, not committed suicide. And of course, they all just turn and look at Blanc at once.
Yeah.
Joni calls him Detective Blanc. Which to me, as I thought of Strangers with Candy, I thought of Jerry Blanc.
Jerry Blanc, yeah.
I would love to see a spinoff of that. Jerry Blanc and Detective Blanc together. Those two characters.
That would be fun. Jerry Blanc.
I so want to start quoting that, but again, PG podcast.
Oh yeah, I would leave that one alone.
Yep. Leave that one lie there. We're now at Marta's apartment. The news has leaked to the media. Their apartment is surrounded by reporters. We get, as Aaron A. Mentioned a moment ago, we get that awesome confrontation scene in the hallway between Walt and Marta, where he strongly suggests that she renounce the inheritance. We'll protect you with the resources. And then Marta's like, well, I can just use those resources myself.
Yes.
Yeah. She's not as like everyone, I think, just automatically assumed that because of their perception of her status in life, that we are more powerful than you. We'll just push you over.
Yeah.
And they're realizing that Marta's got a backbone on her.
Yeah. Yeah. She's got principles.
Because even though their self-view of power is still that kiddie pool, like you guys have never had to fight for anything. Like you're just telling people that you're more powerful. Whereas Marta's like, no, I've had to survive. Like I've had to fight. And so, yeah, she's not as big of a pushover as they think she is.
So in the mail, Marta receives a photocopy of part of Harlan's toxicology report. With a copy of the tag from her own medical bag and a handwritten "I know what you did" note. I will say I cut at the last moment because I didn't want my movie Marriage just to go on and on and on.
Yeah,
I cut "I know what you did last summer" from my movie Marriage.
Good idea. Yeah. But it would have fit for sure.
I mean, Jennifer Love Hewitt, I think, played M. Emmett Walsh in this movie,
which was played by M. Emmett Walsh.
Yeah,
he played Jennifer Love Hewitt playing M. Emmett Walsh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's Inception.
Yeah, I mean he's such a great actor.
He is range, range.
Yeah,
even the gender range of M. Emmett Walsh.
Yeah, like, I mean he's everywhere, anywhere, and everywhere.
He's one of the few performers in Hollywood that no one gets bent out of shape if he represents them. Like you know, people will be like, you need like a Japanese actor for that role,
or you could just get M. Emmett Walsh.
Exactly,
and that's perfectly acceptable.
Like in that movie. Where Emma Stone played a Hawaiian.
Yeah.
M. Emmett Walsh turned the role
If only they had cast M. Emmett Walsh, there wouldn't have been...
It wouldn't have been controversial.
No, not at all.
Well, he had just gotten back from Hawaii, and plus he had such an experience filming Forgetting Sarah Marshall out there. He played the Jonah Hill character.
Yeah.
That he's like, I've had enough of Hawaii. Hire someone else. And then last minute, the best they could do was Emma Stone. Yeah. And that's why all the backlash.
Yeah. I mean, he also was in the animated Lilo and Stitch. He played the ice cream that kept getting knocked over by the airplane.
Yeah. It's bizarre the range the man has.
I don't think he's won an Academy Award.
He's actually won them all.
He won all of them.
They've all been M. Emmett Walsh performances.
Well, I mean, it is technically called the annual M. Emmett Walsh Academy Awards.
Yeah, it's real small font that they use.
If you look closely at the Oscar statute, it's actually M. Emmett Walsh's his face.
It's so cool each year seeing himself hand himself to himself.
Yeah.
To win the awards.
Yeah, it's very meta.
But it's really just the actor, actress, and supporting roles. Like he realizes that Hollywood would crumble, as would he, if he did take on every role in every film ever made. Like,
but he's a very generous man, so he occasionally includes other performers.
Well, he understands his limitations and knows I need direction.
Yeah.
And I'm not good with computers, so someone else is going to have to do the editing.
Yeah. I mean, which is why he was using VHS in this movie.
Yeah.
He's known as M. Emmett Analog Walsh.
But anything that's ever performed live, like when you're seeing like the performances for Best Song, that's M. Emmett Walsh. Yeah. He didn't write the music or sing it like for the recordings, but he is acting it out.
Yeah.
He's
Aaron, how you doing?
Are you done now?
Whose show is this? I forget.
Yeah, isn't he dead?
Thanks a lot, Aaron. We'll see you next time.
I have been a long-time Patreon subscriber.
Look at her. She's thrombing her way.
Yeah, speaking of privilege and wealth.
I am entitled to be here.
Yeah, I pay to be here.
Yeah, my middle name is Thrombey. Yeah, I do.
M. Emmett Walsh died last year.
Yeah, sadly. All right.
Or did he?
Well, yeah.
Maybe he acted his own death.
Yeah.
He acted his own death. Well, that is sad that both he and Christopher Plummer have since passed away since the movie was made.
Yeah, he played a convincing corpse.
Yeah. It was good. He just needed a little R&R.
Knocked it out of the park.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
My apologies to the M. Emmett Walsh family.
Oh, goodness.
And they're all like, it's good. He's here with us. Like,
what are you talking about?
He's in the other room. He
enjoys this too.
He's in the John.
With his prune juice.
With his prune juice. All right, back to the show.
So,
we're at like 53
I know
minutes.
what you did. She gets the note. It says, I know what you did. After consulting with Ransom, we find out the local medical examiner's office has been arsoned, so all other physical copies of the toxicology report are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as like the blood work as well. So Ransom suggests Marta check her email.
Yeah, he says, "Have you heard anything? Yeah, have you been contacted?" So yes.
And so she sees a communication telling her to meet at like a laundromat at a certain time. And Ransom says, well, if you do that, you can destroy the last remaining toxicology report, which of course would put you in the clear. At the scene of this medical examiner's office, Blanc and Elliot see Marta and Ransom kind of snooping around, and then we get the world's greatest car chase here.
Yeah, what kind of car is it? It's like a little Hyundai something. It's this a little car that is not equipped.
Yeah,
we're not sponsored, so we'll leave the name, like the brand of.
But anyway,
car out,
it's
so
a small little.
I'm pretty sure it was an insert car manufacturer.
This is not an endorsement. We are not being paid for this promotion.
Maybe you're not. Good people at Hyundai are giving me a pretty penny.
Right.
But anyway,
Curtis
it's a small
paid,
little car with not a lot of horsepower. It's a sad little car.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a smart car.
And even after the car chase is done, Detective Elliot pulls up and just goes, "Well, that was stupid." which I noticed that the second time around, and I wonder if that was kind of a wink at the scene itself.
Yeah,
because it was a pretty lame car chase.
Yeah,
I think it was supposed to be kind of a lame car chase.
It's not just like an action movie.
Like just to be funny.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly like the French Connection here.
No,
not Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. Yeah, which is next week's. He said Gene Hackman, so yeah, right. It could be the French Connection.
I don't remember him in Fast and the Furious.
He was in More Fast, More Furious.
Yeah, it's true. He was the Tokyo Drift.
He was. They call that a Hackman, that maneuver.
Right. Originally, it was Fast and the Furious, the Hackman.
The Hackman.
But he decided he didn't want to be part of the family, so they iced him out.
Yeah. Well, family.
Oh gosh, yeah, he had a problem.
I've not seen any of those films.
I saw part of one sitting in the emergency room waiting room.
Okay, I don't plan on seeing any of them. It's going to be like my I take it to my deathbed of like.
Yeah,
I watched one on a plane, the one with Jason Momoa, which actually I did enjoy. But I watched.
You were on the plane, or the movie was on the plane. Like the movie, like the plot of the movie was. You watched the one on the plane, like it's Fast and Furious 4. Like cars on the plane. Like,
no, I watched TV.
You were on the plane.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I will say the one I watched, you joke about that, but Ludacris ends up in space.
What?
And I'm not kidding.
That is ludicrous.
Uh-huh.
Which is also one of the speeds in space.
Yeah, they reached to get into space. They hit ludicrous speed.
They needed him there.
That's what it's called when you exit Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah,
is you reach ludicrous speed. That's an actual NASA term.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay, so after the ridiculous car chase, they park.
Yes.
And then something interesting happens. Mm-hmm. Okay, since you're drinking, I'll go ahead. So,
yes. I mean, yeah, you've got the floor, Aaron.
So, Benoit Blanc, they take in ransom for questioning. Mm-hmm. That the grandma, who's super old, 100 plus, she said that she saw Ransom come back to the party.
Yeah.
So they're taking him in with Lakeith Stanford and the other state trooper. So, but then Blanc stays with Marta, and actually she lies again to Blanc. He said, "Did Ransom put you up to driving away from us?" And she said yes, and then she throws up in a big gulp cup in her car. But then anyway, so then she still needs to do this meeting for this toxicology report. So she said, can I stop? I need to run an errand. You know what? Ironically, she does not vomit there because maybe it's technically true.
There was a couple of times where she tells smaller scale lies and you hear her stomach churn.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You do hear a gurgle.
Well, and she does a really good job of crafting how she says things so that she's not completely lying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even what Harlan told her, tell parts of the truth, tell so that she doesn't have the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So then anyway, I guess I'll go ahead. So she kept the meeting. She goes to this laundromat. It's dark. It's really creepy looking. She walks in. She sees somebody sitting in a chair, and nothing's happening. So she's just inching closer and closer. And she finally turns on the flashlight on her camera. And actually, this part did freak me out the first time I see it. So it's Fran sitting back, Fran, the housekeeper, sitting back, and there's like a big spider walking across her face. Oh. And then she just inhales, goes, and so then Marta realizes that she's alive. And Marta, her medical bag is there. And then Marta, there's the morphine is there with the syringe. And so
all the evidence
is there, but Marta stays and tries to revive Fran and tries to save her life. And she calls 911.
Yeah. So in the hospital waiting room, Blanc says Ransom told Elliot everything. So everything Marta had told Ransom now told Elliot. So the police know everything that really happened there, at least from Marta's perspective. And she just says, I need to tell family the truth. And Blanc says, I'll gather him up. So after arriving back at the mansion and hugging it out with Meg, she realizes where the tax report is. Earlier in the movie, I'll save the details. I think Fran had like a stash of weed that she kept in like a little clock on a shelf.
Yeah.
And so she realizes that's where the tax report was hidden. And so right as Marta is about to come clean, Blanc comes in and cuts her off, chastises the family, says Marta deserves the fortune, calls them all a pack of vultures, knives out, beaks bloody.
Which was the original title, Beaks Bloody.
Beaks Bloody, yeah. Or a pack of vultures.
Mm. The original alternate title to The Birds.
Yes, yeah. A pack of vultures, yeah.
And the original alternate title to The Burbs.
The Burbs, yeah, with Tom Hanks, Pack of Vultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Somebody needed to use the title.
Yeah. He goes on and says Marta is not renouncing the fortune and Harlan's death is ruled a suicide. Blanc pulls Marta and Elliot into another room, the big knife chair room, tells the other officer to get the family out of the house, but basically keep Ransom here. Blanc deduces somebody's pulling the strings. They bring in Ransom. Blanc surmises that Harlan told Ransom everything during their argument at the party, including that no one was going to get everything except Marta, and she's going to get everything. We flash back to the argument. Ransom says to Harlan that Marta is Brazilian.
Yeah.
So again, in the original scene, after Ransom storms out, he turned around and snuck back into the house the same way Marta did.
Yeah.
Climbed the same trellis and switched out the meds. So basically, Marta did her job the right way.
Yes.
Right. She was set up.
Yeah.
And then she noticed she was completely set up. And there's a really, really sweet moment in this movie where Blanc, the conversation kind of lulls just for a moment, and Blanc turns to Marta and says, "You're a good nurse. Like, you knew what you were doing. Right. You were caring for your patient the right way." Marta sits back in the giant knife chair. Ransom says, "You have no evidence." Marta confessed. Mm-hmm. We flash back to Fran seeing Ransom tampering with the medical bag, and she made a copy of the note to use as ransom against Ransom.
Right.
Ransom realizes the tax report will reveal Marta's innocence. He torches the medical examiner's office. He sent Marta the email, and the blackmail note was actually written by Fran to Ransom, which he then played off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marta then realizes, because again, as she was resuscitating we think that she says, "You did this," but in fact she said Hugh, which is Ransom's real first name.
Right.
Marta gets a call from the hospital while they're there, says Fran is alive and will confirm that Ransom attacked her in the laundromat. After Ransom just berates Marta, saying that she took their birthright, she pukes all over Ransom right in the face. And again, I was referencing last week's movie, The Man Who Killed Hitler and the Bigfoot. Second straight movie in which we have someone getting puked on in the face.
Agreed.
Yeah. Aaron, for reference, last week, and there's no joke here, a Bigfoot puked all over Sam Elliott's face.
Yeah.
Ooh. Sam Elliott.
That's not hyperbolic.
She's like, ooh.
Stop! You had me at Sam Elliott.
Yeah, I'm very Sam Elliott.
You had me at Bigfoot.
Another silver fox here.
That mustache. What's he hiding back there?
Lip. Narnia.
Yeah, that's a gateway.
You just pull back the curtains and you're in Narnia.
You're in Narnia. So after she pukes in Ransom's face, we realize Marta was lying, and that on the phone call they said Fran's dead, and so she was able to keep her her vomit in just long enough.
Yeah.
But Ransom admitted in front of Elliot that he killed Fran. So Ransom grabs a knife from the giant knife chair, lunges at Marta, digs it into her, but it turns out the knife is fake. It's one of those collapsible toy
retractables.
Yeah.
Yes. We then get an epilogue of Ransom being arrested. Linda goes to burn the blank note that Harlan had written for Richard, in which, that he was going to give to Linda about Richard cheating on it, but the heat reveals disappearing ink, so Linda realizes that Richard is cheating on her.
Yeah.
After briefly talking with Blanc, the family turns to see Marta standing on the second floor balcony looking down on them. We get knives out on the screen. Credits roll. What a movie, Aaron.
Yeah.
Nice pick. Great pick.
Yeah.
It really is a good movie. And I like, at the end, how actually Marta is on like a second floor balcony.
Right.
And she's looking down then at all of the family where their positions have been flipped.
Yeah.
And she looks very at home. She's got a blanket, and then her mug says like, "My house, my rules."
I think it was Harlan's mug.
It was
Harlan's
You
mug,
see it, I think, in one of the first scenes, but it was Harlan's mug. But yeah, it's perfect. She is the lady of the mansion now.
Yes. Symmetry.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, at this point in the show, Oz and I, as well as special guest Aaron A., will give our own unique rating to the film we've been yapping about, Knives Out. Aaron, would you care to go first with your unique rating? Do you have one?
I would say 8.5 out of 10 knives.
8.5 knives. Perfect.
With
the half being the retractable.
Correct.
Right. It's true.
Yeah. The half being Emmett Walsh.
Right.
Oz, how would you rate this flick?
I am giving this 9 fisherman sweaters.
There you go. Okay.
Ransom's fisherman sweater with the hole in the neck.
Yeah, that became an internet sensation when it came out.
It was.
Have fun finding an image for this, Oz. I gotta go with let's go with 87 big gulps full of puke.
Fair enough. That's actually all of them.
Okay.
So, if you have a big gulp,
every internet search of a big gulp is actually filled with puke.
Right.
Or we could go with 87 Emmett Walsh's. Because he was
They're
in this film 87 times. I'll let you pick. All
right.
Or Emmett Walsh drinking big gulp.
You know what? AI might help me with that one.
There you go. 87 Emmett Walsh is drinking a big gulp.
Yep.
Thanks, ChatGPT. Next up at our comedy smorgasbord, Oz and I have been scouring the interwebs searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones. We hope they tickle yours as well. And our next bit, Outside Insights. Aaron, do you have an outside insight you'd like to share, or are you just along for the ride?
I'm along for the ride.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
Oz, what is your outside insight?
I have a quick one. It is a half-star review from J Chen 2012. It's probably Joan Chen.
Who else could it be?
Yeah, it's off Letterboxd. It's a horrible movie. What's up with the accents? Why does this movie drag on for hours and a plot that doesn't make any sense? Really disappointed because this is a Chris Evans movie.
He only does good stuff.
Yeah, well, so was Not Another Teen Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emmett Walsh was also in that, too.
Yeah, that to me was funny because it was just that, like, I'm so disappointed for a Chris Evans movie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
First time ever I've been let down by a Chris Evans movie.
Never, ever been dropped by that before. So what do you got?
I'm going to share 2, both from the Internet Movie Database. The first is a 3 out of 10, left in October of 2022 from Zagreb Boris.
Okay.
I big Rocky and Bullwinkle fan. Mostly boring. A third-rate script with a lot of illogicality and naive attempts, the dialogues are mostly unnatural and sound artificial. The actors are average. Even Daniel Craig does not deviate from that average. At no moment is the viewer drawn into the film, not even for a second. Can you believe the plot and indulge in the pleasure of a good crime story? The linear direction makes the film monotonous. I don't know what the ending is because I gave up half an hour before the end. Average children's crime film.
One, why stick around for an hour and 40 minutes and then be like, I'm ducking out?
Yeah.
And two, why are you comparing this to like the series of like Olsen twin mystery movies? Like,
yeah,
this is a children's mystery film.
It's children's. We already established that there was actually, Aaron, I don't know if you've listened to any of the recent episodes. We established a couple episodes ago, I forget which movie it was, that there was actually Olsen triplets.
Yes.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've heard alternate theories that was actually Olsen quadruplets or then octuplets.
That's not right. Well, octuplets, there's 8 of them.
Well, and like Mary Kate actually used to be 2 people.
There was Mary and Kate.
Kate and Ashley.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's the conspiracy theory we choose to believe.
Well, I think 2 is enough.
The other one I'm going to share is a 1 out of 10 left from C. Dietz 94, left in November of 2019. Pretentious waste of time by an egotistical hack. Not satisfied with butchering Star Wars, Rian Johnson sets out to do a poor man's ripoff of the films of Jonathan Lynn like Clue and Greedy. The script is pretentious, trying way too hard to be clever, and it's about as subtle as a sledgehammer to the face. It's all around a waste of time that will only be enjoyed by hipsters.
Wow, I guess that's the first person who's called me a hipster.
I mean, when I think of hipster, I think Aaron.
Yes, with my grandma picture in my background.
Yeah. Well, again, you're trying to be ironic.
It's very hip of you.
Yeah.
You're hip to be square is what you are.
It's not even a real picture. You're actually in front of a green screen.
Green screen.
If you were a true hipster, you'd have flannel wallpaper.
It'd be bespoke wallpaper made of vintage flannel shirts.
Yeah. And coffee.
Hey folks, it's that point in the show you've all been waiting for. The Let's Talk About Flicks signature segment, the 3-2-1, in which Oz, I, and Aaron A will share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about this week's movie, 2019's Knives Out. Aaron, do you have 3-2-1s, or would you care to just chip in?
Sure, I'll chip in.
Would you want to throw a good out there? Something you enjoyed, something you liked?
Sure. I mean, I just really enjoyed the cast. Like, I just thought everybody was so good. Yeah, I thought like Blanc was a little bit over the top. I mean, yeah, there were a few things that weren't super believable, but I really enjoyed the cast.
Sure.
Nice.
All right, thank you. Oz, your 3 goods?
My first one was Daniel Craig just had a blast with this movie.
Absolutely.
And so, it's fun because for a long time there was this rule with James Bond actors that you're not allowed to be in a tuxedo and anything else. And because of that, a lot of them just weren't in a lot of other things because they're constantly making these Bond films. Well, with Craig's Bond, like they're so spread out now, like they're not as, cyclical as they were. And so to see him in a movie like this, where he could just kind of just relax, just have fun. So I really enjoyed his performance, only because you could tell this whole movie was over the top, but he just was having fun with it. My second was, if done well, I really enjoy a layered writing like this, to where, we'll tell a little bit early. It's like, it's just complete control of the craft of, I want to tell the story in a pattern that of my choosing, to where I control when the audience figures this stuff out. And so that I enjoy. And then 3, to echo what you'd said, Aaron, just the ensemble cast. When you can get a lot of, I think that says a lot about a script, when you can get a lot of big names to sign on. Like Soderbergh did a really good job there for a stretch, where everybody was just excited to work with him, that they're like, you know what, I'll work for whatever, just to be a part of this project. And that's kind of the vibe I got from this too, is they could have filled many of these roles with talented actors of a lesser stature, but they didn't. Like, these people were on board with, I want a part of that. That looks like fun. Let's do it. So those are my three goods. Yeah. What do you got, Curtis?
One of mine, which I think is probably too close to one of yours. So this is not an official good, but just Rian Johnson's vision.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, which again, that won't be an official one because I think that was too close to your writing, but just because he wrote and directed it.
Yes.
So starting with my official goods, very inventive storytelling and editing. Yeah. Act 1 is all about getting to know the characters and while establishing the story at the same time. And this movie did a very inventive way of pulling it off, and successfully, while still not making it too confusing.
Right.
My second one, honestly, my second and third are just little moments from the movies. My second good is just, Walt, I will not eat one iota of poop.
I'm not doing it.
I refuse. And my last is, and again, this just came up a few moments ago, as Blanc has finally realized all the details, and he's laying it out to Elliot and Ransom and Marta, and he just turns to Marta and says, "You're a good nurse. Yeah, you knew what you were doing. You knew that you were giving him the correct medication." Because I don't think we explicitly said this before. She gave him the right medication despite the labels, because she didn't look at the labels, but she just instinctively knew based on like the viscosity of the medication and the weight of it and how it draws, that she was giving him the right medication because she is a good nurse. And he took a moment to validate her and give her some agency back. And that was one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, was just that little 10-second moment. So Aaron, switch as we go to our bads. Do you have any bads you'd like to share?
Well, I guess then that's kind of the sad part of the movie, is really Harlan died. He did truly commit suicide. And
so there wasn't enough Christopher Plummer.
Well, yeah, that is the bad side. But,
that's really what you're getting at.
Yeah, I mean, but that's really sad, because if they had just waited, if they just waited and called the ambulance, then they would have realized that there was no mix-up, and he would have lived. And so that's really, I guess that's a sad part of the movie, is when at the end you realize that Marta did do her job correctly, and she was a good nurse, and that Harlan essentially died then in vain trying to save Marta.
Well, and stealing a potential here, how would things have played out had Harlan lived?
Yeah.
It's because eventually, the will reading is when it was revealed that he isn't leaving anything to anybody except Marta.
Right.
Imagine that coming directly from him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Oz, what are your two bads?
It's nitpicky, with a movie like this. It in today's current climate is a little bit too political. Not in a bad way. Like, it didn't detract from it, but it just a little too on the nose for what we're dealing with today, in some regards, and it makes it even more frustrating when we are all more of a Marta than we are a Thrombey. So that was my first bad, is it just was like, oh, people like this do exist. And it sucks. And my second is to kind of reflect a little on the ensemble. When you have an ensemble cast this large, some people get lost. And I would have loved to see more Don Johnson and Toni Collette.
Sure.
Just because their roles were important. They both married in to the family, but they were great characters that just weren't like I wanted to see a little bit more.
Sure.
Just because of the
so I agree. Toni Collette was really underutilized.
Yeah.
And of course I could always go for more Don Johnson.
Yeah. Toni Collette is just outstanding.
And you said, we could always use more Don Johnson.
With or without the 80s suit.
Yeah. Or a Lamborghini in the foreground.
Does more Dakota Johnson?
No, I don't like Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson doesn't do much for me either.
I agree.
I mean, except for Madam Web, Dakota Johnson.
Except that one.
that particular brand of Dakota Johnson.
There was a Dakota Johnson movie I saw not too long ago. Give me a second to find it here. Daddy-O is the name of it.
50 Shades of Maroon.
Not Daddy-O, not Daddy-O. What was the name of that movie? Let me pull up her filmography here. It was an independent film. Cha Cha Real Smooth was the name of it.
Turn it out.
It was really good. Like it really was. I can't really put my finger as to what it was, other than just I think the pressures of because again it was an indie film. It debuted at Sundance, and it just
7.3 on IMDb.
Yeah, it's got Leslie Mann, Brad Garrett's in it. The guy who wrote and directed and produced also was like the star. Mm-hmm. So I think there was a little bit of that. Of the guy obviously was in control of all of it, but it was good. It was a pleasant surprise for a movie that I liked the cast, but at the same time I was like, oh, I'm not a huge Dakota Johnson fan. I didn't mind her in that one. Okay, that one was okay. Fair. So find the most obscure Dakota Johnson movie you can, and you might be surprised. But no, I also prefer a Dawn over a Dakota, but whatever. So
is it on to me?
Yeah, I think Curtis, your two bads. Did you do yours?
Yeah. Let's go with I'll say Meg. We didn't talk about the Meg character too much as we were going through. Again, Meg is one of the grandchildren, and she's the one that through most of the movie, you could argue of all the family members, she was the one who had seemingly a genuine connection with Marta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at one point, Meg gives into both grief and pressure.
Yeah.
And ends up calling Marta at the behest of the family. So bad on Meg, I guess, for giving in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this one we talked about before, but people who claim to build something from the ground up but really come from old money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's basically really the Linda character, but again, I'll amplify that for just anybody. It's I could really go on a rant here. I'll keep it short, but again, people sometimes not realizing how much old money really generational wealth.
Yes.
It's almost kind of like the why am I blanking on the term? The again, Dakota Johnson is one. When actors have kids, nepo baby.
Nepotism.
It's like you can still acknowledge someone's efforts and successes while also again like these aren't this is one where like both things can be true. Like someone could have I'm sure Dakota Johnson has worked hard to get where she is.
Right.
However, she had a leg up from the start at the same time.
Yeah. Right? I mean, you grew up in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, even Jamie Lee Curtis, you could say that
of course.
well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, I take nothing away from her abilities and the efforts she put in, but at the same time, she had a leg up.
It was an easier path for you based on your heritage, which again, not your fault.
Yeah.
But I'm not, critical's not the right word, because again, I like Jamie Lee Curtis as a performer, and I think she's earned where she's at. But yes, she was definitely given an easier path into the field.
Yeah, I think all of us. Sorry, it looked like you were about to say something else.
Do we feel the same way about people who succeed in industries that are not what their parents are in?
I think it depends on. We go back to that word privilege.
Yeah.
Like Aaron, I'll speak to us just for a quick moment. We grew up in a very middle class household.
Yeah.
But even though we weren't born rich, we don't have significant generational wealth. We still lived in a safe environment. We were still we had shelter.
Yeah.
We were provided an education. We were provided, financial support, emotional support.
Yeah.
And again, not that we had significant wealth to draw from, but we still have privilege that many don't. And so we had advantages that others in this country don't have.
Yeah. And like, for examples, like Ellie King, the pop.
Is that Rob Schneider's daughter?
It's Rob Schneider's
Elle
daughter.
King.
Rob Schneider.
And I just learned we're going to Lollapalooza again this year and looking at the lineup. One of my daughter, I won't say it's a favorite, but it's an artist that she likes and listens to, is Gracie Abrams, who I didn't realize until reading on Reddit at the people listed that is the daughter of J.J. Abrams.
Okay.
I was literally just about to make a crack about that, but
yeah, and it's like
actually is, yeah,
it is, and is she like, she's not a headliner, but she's. Granted, I don't follow the life and trials of J.J. Abrams at all.
I do,
but there were a lot of people in the Reddit thread that were like, really, like, and so that's I'm curious because yes, obviously there's an advantage there.
Right.
To where you may not be going into the acting field or even the Hollywood field, but, we don't know the details. Like, did daddy buy your singing lessons? Like, does daddy know this person at this, it's easier getting you an agent, like those kind of things. But yeah, it's,
Get privileged isn't always just wealth. Or
no,
money.
It's not. It's opportunity.
It's opportunity. It's protection. It's access. And when just coming full circle, when people claim that I have built something from the ground up completely on my own,
right? Yeah.
There's rarely ever 100% truth to that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. 100%.
That kind of leads me to my
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear. What's your hum? You're basically steering the ship now, Aaron.
Well.
No. I say that in a good way because our stupid shenanigans. Like, I mean, I can. Do you want me to go back to an at Walsh reference?
Oh, not again! I can't take
it. So, Aaron, what's your
my is even like the Harlan's mother, that the really old lady that nobody knows how old she is. There's negative comments about her, like she ate the whole salmon spread. As Ransom storms out, he just thrusts his plate of cake into her hands. But she plays really kind of the crux of the movie. She is the one that saw Ransom come back to the house. And we see that in one of the scenes, that she is there in this big picture window just sitting there, and she sees Ransom and she says, Ransom, you're back again. So this old lady who's still with it, she's the one who helped kind of put it all together for Blanc. If she hadn't have witnessed then
all the other family is very.
Yeah, if she hadn't witnessed, if she hadn't witnessed that, and then Blanc had intentionally spent time with her because he suspected that she was being ignored,
right?
And then he started gleaning this information from her.
Yeah, Blanc gave her agency and validation.
Yes, he did.
Whereas everyone else just dismissed her.
Right. Yeah.
You have something of worth, something of value.
Yes.
I recognize that. Nobody else does.
Yes, because she's just lost her son. And she's in grief, and she's probably devastated and shocked. And, nobody in the family is comforting her. So I thought that was a kind of interesting that she plays such a pivotal role, even though she doesn't really matter to her grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Right.
So, hey, Oz, what's your
how extensive does this vomit thing go? Like, okay, she can't tell a lie without vomiting. Fair enough. But like, if somebody writes, like, is it only if she knows she's lying? Like, if somebody writes down a lie and she reads it, does she vomit?
Like if she doesn't put the right weight on her driver's license,
right? Or like she weighed herself
her
this morning.
Her picture is just
she rounds up or down, like it's like, where does the magic end? Like, with this vomit to lie reaction, that would just curious.
Like if she just says the title of The Wizard of Oz, she vomits because we learn that he's not really a wizard.
Right. Or what if she what if she like says the title incorrectly? Like if she's typing and types out a typo, she knows how to spell it, but she did it wrong. Like
anytime she has to hit a delete button.
Yeah.
The first thing she does when she buys pencils is tear the erasers off.
Has to. Like, yeah. I just want to know what's the extensiveness of this vomit reaction, this vomit reflex of I cannot tell a lie. Like,
I like to think that she's just constantly in a state of dry heaving.
Right. And does this allow her, like, you can, if it's just the life that you can still be a terrible person and not lie. Like, if you're not caught, but like, if she gets caught speeding, do you know why I pulled you over? No. Do you know how fast you were going?
Or like she has a tail light out. Do you know why I pulled you over?
Because I was speeding? No. Ma'am, are you okay? Yeah. It's just,
she has to be literal in every statement she makes.
Yeah, and so it's like, like her inability to lie doesn't mean she has to be a good. I'm glad she is a good person for the narrative of the plot, but you can be a terrible person and not lie. You're just terrible. Yeah.
She's like Drax. She has to be literal in every statement.
Yeah. And so, I'm just curious, like how far this extends. Like
that's fair.
Yeah. What do you got?
For mine, it's about a particular moment in the movie. So, Ransom has just been arrested. She's looking at her clock. It's almost 10 o'clock. She's on her way to this meetup, with this the mystery. With the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Night.
Yeah.
And so she turns to Blanc in the car and says, "Hey, I need to stop for something." She doesn't say what the something is. And this is moments after the big car chase.
Right.
And Ransom, who she fled with, was arrested. And Blanc is like, "Okay."
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Go right off and do your something.
Yeah, it's true.
And I get he's not curious about what or where or when or why.
Nope, he trusts.
Yeah, the detective is not wondering why or what she's doing.
I mean, she's got dry cleaning to pick up. You gotta get some stamps.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when he's waiting for her,
got to return some videotapes.
While Blanc is waiting for her in the car, he is singing a Stephen Sondheim song, I think from like Follies. Yes. And in the next, it's not a sequel, but the next movie with Benoit Blanc, there is a cameo of the actual Stephen Sondheim in this second movie with them.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Glass Onion.
With the Glass Onion, which I do also recommend.
I mean, this movie is set within the Sondheim-averse.
Yeah.
Yeah, the SCU.
Yeah.
Well, on that happy note,
yeah,
I just that was the loudest eye roll I've ever heard. Well, Patreon subscriber Aaron A, thank you.
Oh yes,
for joining us, for your film recommendation, and for your eternal love is my sibling.
Oh, so, well, yes. I'm glad I could come and join you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed the movie because obviously we
did. Yes. Well, and I think I could speak for you, Oz. I enjoyed our time together, despite our normal shenanigans. This has been very fun.
Yes. Yeah.
I will continue my patronage.
Oh,
we appreciate
and I look forward to next time.
Yeah, good. Like that's the blessing we hope for after each Patreon subscriber. It was like, okay, I'll continue. One of these days, someone's gonna be like, funding has been cut off. Don't contact me.
No, we're done. We're done. One more Emmett Walsh reference, and I'm out.
You're getting close.
That's cool. Like I've talked more about Emmett Walsh in this last hour and a half than I've talked about it in 45 years. So, but no, greatly appreciate you joining us this morning.
Guys.
We really have appreciated it.
It's been fun.
So, we got a couple more weeks left, and let's stay in the family.
Yes,
we've got Lyle M coming next week. Is he joining us?
I don't think so. I'm going to reach out and pester one more time.
Fair enough.
I have a feeling he will decline.
That's all right.
If anyone is curious, Lyle M is the papa of Aaron A and myself. So we will see. I've got an awesome story to tell about next week's movie. And I think it's one that will probably bring a tear to Lyle M's eye because very, very vivid memory about us going to see the movie in a theater with his father.
Okay.
So I will share the details for next week. That's what we call in the industry a teaser.
So that's fair. So
and said movie, Aaron, I think you figured it out. So would you care to share what next week's movie will be?
Because we watched it 100 times as children. I believe it is the great film Hoosiers.
You are correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
You knew it was basically going to be Hoosiers or Rudy, right? Like it was going to be.
To me, it was always Hoosiers, just because I know that's what Dad loves.
Yeah.
Hoosiers is correct.
Well, and also, I'm a Hoosier.
Technically, you are. You're not native Hoosier,
not a native.
but you're a transplant Hoosier.
Yes,
that's true.
This movie is actually semi autobiographical about you.
Yes, yeah. I'm quite the basketball player.
Made years in advance.
Yes, yes. At age 3, 4.
Yeah, yeah. But it was the telling of your voyage.
Yeah. So next
to
week,
Indiana basketball superstar.
So next week we will talk about I think it's 86. I'm doing this off the top of my head, either 86 or 87's Hoosiers, starring the again at the time of this recording
86.
86. We are in late March 2025, so only about a month or so after the passing of the great Gene Hackman, Danville, Illinois native.
Exactly.
Gene Hackman.
Dad and I just discussed that actually.
This movie feels older than 86. Like
you're right. You're right. It does feel.
I was surprised to see it was 86. I was like, wow, like Nightmare on Elm Street is older than this movie.
Wow. I'm surprised. I was right. I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
I really was 3 years old. But yeah.
But you've seen this movie 100 times.
Well, I don't know all the trivia about it.
You've only seen 3 movies in your entire life. Spy.
Oh, gosh.
Spy, Hoosiers, and Knives Out.
I'm trying to think what other movies we watched just regularly as children. Yeah, Hoosiers, Rudy, Last of the Mohicans.
Yep. We did
Clue.
Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah,
Clue.
Leprechaun 2.
Leprechaun 2.
E.T. Though
you refused to watch
I hid behind the couch because E.T. creeped me out.
He would just trick you and tell you you're going to watch Entertainment Tonight.
I have still
and
never.
It's like, what's that alien on there for?
I have still never watched E.T. I have still never watched the whole movie.
Maybe that'll be next month.
We'll see.
Or next year.
We'll see. Maybe I'll have to force myself to watch it because I should.
I don't think it's going to affect you now as the way it would have affected you then. I would hope.
I hope I wouldn't be scared of it.
You've also refused to eat Reese's Pieces as well.
That's true. And you still don't know who Drew Barrymore is.
Yeah. Just draw a blank on that one.
Social media-wise, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Shorts are wherever you can find a podcast. Listen wherever you want to. Drop us a subscription and a like and all that stuff that your pest can do.
Yeah. Next year you can share a movie with us
absolutely.
And perhaps even join us.
Yeah, we'd love that. So for another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
And who are you?
I'm his sister. I'm Aaron. It's been fun.
Have some agency, Aaron. You're more than his sister.
Yes.
So
that's actually what the A stands for, is agency.
Right. Yeah. Aaron Agency.
I'm Aaron. So fun to join you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week when we talk about Hoosiers.